Old school begets the new. On the proclaimed third Saturday in October, how far back defines old school? When does new school matriculate? Last year or more, you volunteer. At some point, school is just in session. The lessons learned by all, a lasting impression. Call us throwbacks or leaders of the new. But remember, Roll Tide is always tried and true. From Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, welcome everybody to the SEC on ESPN. ESPN College Football Primetime presented by Miller Lite. Tonight, under the lights, it's the 94th edition of Tennessee against number 2, Alabama. The Volunteers seeking redemption from the one that they think, to a man, got away in 2009.
Watson back to throw. Fires a pass wide open down to the 5. Touchdown, Tennessee. Looking for the onside kick. It's a high hopper that's going to be batted around and recovered by Tennessee.
The spot. It's blocked by Alabama. Terrence Cody for the second time got a piece of that one. The Crimson Tide wins.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Jones, along with Ed Cunningham. Janine Edwards down to the sidelines, joining us in just a few moments. Ed, we saw just a perilously close escape by Alabama a couple of years ago. The Tide comes into this game with an average margin of victory of 33 points. They've been smashing people. Everyone looking ahead to that November 5th game against LSU. Is there any hope for Tennessee?
You know, when we were talking to Jim McElwain, the offensive coordinator for Alabama yesterday, he said, what's the definition of a trap game? This team has a bye week coming up. The players may be thinking about a week off. They've heard all week about LSU and the suspended players that they had, including Tyrann Mathieu. Of course, LSU taking care of business today against Auburn. And he said, I don't know, but this feels like it might be a trap. And for Tennessee coming in, they finally got a little bit of a running game going. Of course, Tyler Bray still out with a broken thumb. Let's see if they can keep that going here in the first half against Alabama.
Alabama has defeated the Volunteers 4 consecutive times. This one, a key moral issue perhaps for Tennessee. A win today would be huge for them. We're going to take a short break. When we come back on the other side, Janine Edwards on that all-important chemistry for the Tide. Welcome back, everyone, to a sold-out Bryant-Denny Stadium. Over 100,000 on hand. Alabama coming in 7-0, and Janine Edwards down on the side.
Riding current of unity within this Crimson Tide team. And it's an aspect the players say they didn't have last year. There's a respect for one another that transcends what happens on the field, and it's palpable when you sit down with them. Left tackle Barrett Jones told us that Nick Saban's been emphasizing leadership. The worst storms in Alabama history hit this area in April. An opportunity was presented to enact those principles. Will this be the glue that binds them for a national championship? Ed, it's hard to ignore.
And one of the things that Nick Saban talks about when he talks about leadership with his team is leaders serve others. And it was such a great lesson that they could learn in a community that has supported them for so many years with so much passion. They're able to give back a lot and develop some leaders through the disaster that happened in April.
His message to his team was that we've got to be a team in good times and in bad. Nick Saban, the head coach who won a national championship at LSU and at Alabama, and on the other side of the field, Derek Dooley, and that Nick Saban hired at LSU. Dooley in his second full year on the sidelines in Knoxville. Alabama won the toss, electing to receive a short kickoff down at the 28-yard line. Fielded by the Tide, number 87, Chris Underwood. It'll be 1st and 10 for Alabama from the 35-yard line. That's where their quarterback, A.J. McCarron, will take the reins of this offense. Last week, stellar. 19 of 24 passing, 224 yards and a touchdown in that blowout win at Ole Miss.
And if you look at his last 2 ball games against Vanderbilt and Ole Miss, 78% completion, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 151 attempts coming into tonight without an interception.
1st and 10 from the 35. Richardson on the game's first carry. Breaks a couple of tackles, tiptoes out of bounds for about 7 yards on the play. Let's take a look at our impact players, brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
For Alabama offensively, Marquise Mays having a very nice season as a senior. They want to get him involved early. His energy brings the entire group up. Chance Warmack at left guard, one of the most powerful blockers I've seen in all of college football this season. And he'll be going up against the USC transfer Malik Jackson, who had his best game as a volunteer last week against LSU. He was flat unblockable during a good portion of that ball game.
On 2nd and 3, Richardson makes a nice catch out of the backfield and is pushed out of bounds after a gain of about a yard. It'll be 3rd and short coming up as we take a look at the rest of the Alabama offense. Smelly, the tight end, was engaged early in the win last week against Ole Miss. And the guys up front, a little bit of a change up there as well. McCullough, the right guard, getting the start.
Over Anthony Steen, who suffered a concussion last week against Ole Miss, but this is a guy who started some. He started 5 ball games last year, including the game against Tennessee, so nothing new for him.
3rd and 1. It's Richardson with his 3rd consecutive touch, and it pays off with a 1st down. It gets about 2 on the play. As we take a look at this Tennessee defense, one of the leaders up front, Jaquez Smith, number 55. And the inside tackles are really a key always with this Tennessee defense. Hood and Jackson. There's a look at the linebackers, Johnson, and Majid. 1st down and 10. Mays out of the Wildcat. Keeps it himself and is going to lose a couple of yards on the play. Gang tackled back at about the 45-yard line. At a little bit of a different look this early for Alabama.
And that just took too long to develop that play. It looked like Mays was not quite sure what he wanted to do with the ball, but they have added some wrinkles. Jim McElwain, hired 4 years ago by Nick Saban as the offensive coordinator, right there in the middle. Just got covered up by a graphic from across the way. Yeah.
2nd and 11. Off the play action. McCarron picked off at the 40-yard line. Johnson still on his feet, and he takes it back to the Alabama 40-yard line. Austin Johnson, the leading tackler for Tennessee defensively, and that is the 1st turnover for A.J. McCarron dating back to the 1st game of the season.
And the 1st turnover for Alabama in SEC play. This is Johnson just dropping out as the middle linebacker. And McCarron does not see him as he comes over. Good read by Johnson. Your middle linebacker is focused completely on the eyes of the quarterback. And Tennessee getting a nice break and good field position here on the road.
1st down and 10 from the 41-yard line of Alabama. They run it on the game's first play. That was Torrin Poole with a handoff from Matt Sims. Matt Sims last week had a tough week against LSU. And what about that at quarterback, Ed? First week, you get your first start of the season against LSU. Now you get the number 2 team in the BCS, Alabama.
First time in the history of this program they've played number 1 versus number 2. And, of course, Sims took over for Tyler Bray at the end of the Georgia game after Bray broke his thumb.
Handed off to Poole running inside as we take a look at our impact players, brought to you by Chick-fil-A.
Alex Bullard moves from guard to center, taking over for James Stone, who moves over to guard because of some snap issues. Torrin Poole, the last back to run for over 100 yards against this Alabama defense, did that last season. And Courtney Upshaw, who was suspended in the 1st quarter against Ole Miss last week, for breaking a team rule, but he ended up with 2 sacks and a forced fumble, so only needed 3/4 of work to put those numbers up.
On 3rd and 4, Sims fires incomplete at the 26-yard line. It was intended for Michael Rivera, who's a huge part of their offense. 4th down coming up, and on the fringes of field goal range.
Yeah, Pilardi, the kicker for Tennessee, this is right on the edge. So I think a good decision here by Derek Dooley. Now the question becomes, this is not a rundown. So the one thing Alabama does very well is confuse quarterbacks, and that's been Matt Sims' problem. 2 interceptions last week against LSU in the first half.
They're 5 of 9 on 4th downs this year. They're not going to get it off in time.
Little bit of confusion for Tennessee as Alabama changed their look.
Before the play clock expired, timeout, Tennessee.
Oh, they got the timeout. So another decision to make for Derek Dooley on their first possession of the game. We'll be back with more right after this. Well, there's a big portion of the Tennessee offense. Tyler Bray, the quarterback on the left, and Justin Hunter, the standout wide receiver on the right. 2 players injured. Bray injured his thumb in a game that we did a couple of weeks ago, broke it against Georgia.
And Hunter blew his ACL against Florida. And now I've got to think potentially a draw when you don't have that quarterback wide receiver combination, and the way Alabama plays in their secondary. You got to be safe here.
4th and about 4. Sims given time and batted down at the line of scrimmage by Dante Hightower, the team's leading tackler, and Alabama will take over on down. So potentially an early defining point as Tennessee's offense fails to answer.
Hightower working one-on-one with right tackle Juwan James, reading the quarterback's eyes if you're not going to get there. But I like the call by Derek Dooley. You're in that tweener distance where a long field goal might get blocked. If you don't make it, same field position. And if you punt it from there and it goes in the end zone, comes out to the 20, only really a 15-yard difference. So I think a good aggressive call by Tennessee.
Vols unable to capitalize on the good starting field position. 1st down and 10 for Alabama. Richardson trying to bounce it outside. Moves the pile and gains about 2 on the play. Brought down by A.J. Johnson.
Not surprised after McCarron throws an interception, you come back to Trent Richardson.
I mentioned that was his first one since the opening game of the season. And since that time, he had a long streak of completions and attempts without one. But what a great guy to rely on behind Trent Richardson, who comes into this game with 6 consecutive 100-yard rushing performances. Another one today would break the record that he co-holds with Sean Alexander. Going up top and overshoots his tight end, Michael Williams. It'll be 3rd and long coming up for Alabama.
Justin Wilcox, the 2nd-year defensive coordinator that Derek Dooley hired from Boise State. Right now, his defense is playing very well. That was excellent coverage down the field on Michael Williams. Really nowhere for McCarron to go across the entire field. And early in this game, and I know it's very early, but early in this game, looking like Tennessee's defensive line holding the point pretty well.
It's a Tennessee team that is extremely young. McCarron caught but out of bounds, incomplete, and it's a 3-and-out for the Tennessee defense. Marquise Mays, the intended receiver. So in their first 2 possessions, Nick Saban's offense has an interception and a 3-and-out.
The punter Cody Mandel for Alabama has not had enough punts this year to rank in any statistical categories in the nation because of the efficiency of their offense. So a little odd here with an interception and a 3-and-out for Alabama. They've been awfully good, especially early in the game, moving the ball.
Mandel averaging almost 39 a punt. Gets off a nice high towering spiral. Back to the 22-yard line. And a nice return by Dervin Young. Well, folks, Monday night, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and a stifling Ravens D looks to put the clamps on Maurice Jones-Drew and rookie quarterback Blaine Gabbert as the Ravens head to Jacksonville. Ravens-Jags on ESPN's Monday Night Football at 8:30 Eastern, also available live on Watch ESPN. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's.
A couple of guys in Ray Rice and Maurice Jones-Drew that people question coming into the NFL. Jones-Drew because of his size, and Ray Rice, I got to see him when he was at Rutgers, and I couldn't understand why scouts didn't really project him, but having a very nice career.
There's Torrin Poole, speaking of running backs. With talent, Poole, the 5'10", 215-pound senior last year against Alabama, or last game against Alabama, he had 117 yards, breaking a streak of running backs that hadn't gone for 100 or more against them. What are his chances today against an Alabama defense that leads the nation in rush defense?
This offensive line for Tennessee, I think, has a great future ahead of it. Young, talented. I think they took a big step forward last week against LSU, and I think this is something Derek Dooley wants to see, the growth of this offensive line, but I think they've got a shot to get it going a little bit.
Sims hands it off to Poole, this time stuffed. And he's going to lose about 3 yards all the way back to the 33. Josh Chapman leading the charge for Alabama.
Kind of amazing when you think about this rush defense. Prior to last year, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis in 2007. And if you go back to last year's Capital One Bowl, coming into tonight's game, this Alabama defense has given up an average of 27.3 yards a game rushing. It's been staggering how good this front seven has been.
In 54 games, only one running back has gone for over 100 against them. Sims complete, but there's a flag down. They whistle the play dead.
Well, they're going to get Dallas Thomas, the left tackle, and I think that was a noise problem.
Prior to the snap, false start, offense, number 71. 5-yard penalty, remains, third down.
Janine Edwards, can you hear us?
Hey guys, yes I do, and you are exactly right about the noise. This is one problem when you have 110,000 people trying to help you, but they're actually hurting you. There was some problems with the Alabama defensive line not hearing the communication because of the crowd noise when the Tennessee quarterback made some checks.
Move it back to the 29. It's 3rd and 13. A little draw and a great burst up the middle. Hard running for the first down. Torrin Poole, with bad intentions that time, picks up 15 yards and a spirited run.
And James Stone, the left guard, who made the switch from center over to left guard because of some snap issues, gets a wonderful block. He's working one-on-one against C.J. Mosley. Got that big elbow brace. Watch this cut right there. Got on the inside leg, and Poole did a nice job. Just go straight ahead. You get a nice body miss. Nice job by the left guard, Stone.
I'll be trying to show that 117-yard performance against them a couple years ago. It was no fluke. Sims wide open. Down to the 40-yard line is tight end Michael Rivera. Rivera part of the rest of that complementary piece of the offense for Tennessee that is, including Rodgers, potent at times.
And this is a young offensive line. A lot of these guys are sophomores. Junior Thomas, Stone is a sophomore, Bullitt a sophomore, Fulton a sophomore, Jawan James a sophomore. All have bright futures, but they need to get a little more power in them to play in this league week in and week out.
And a flag, a little motion up front.
False start, offense, number 64. 5-yard penalty. It remains first down.
And this is what Dooley talked to his team about all week. Coming into a place like this, against an opponent like this, he said, we can't have mistakes that are not caused by our opponent. It's hard enough. We're playing a good enough opponent. We played LSU last week. We're playing Alabama this week. And they had some of those mistakes in the first half last week against LSU. And he's been warning his team about these types of mistakes.
Poole on 1st and 15 Carries a tackler down to the 41, where he's brought down by Daquan McKenzie. And a look at the #1 defense in the nation. The guys up front. Josh Chapman holding it down in the middle.
The biggest growth area on this team has been in the secondary from last year. Mark Barron spoke to him last week before the Ole Miss game, talking about communication has gotten so much better. It's more about confirmation than having to reset the entire defense for the most veteran guy back there, the free safety.
On 2nd and 9, they elect to run it. Down to the pool again, picks up 5. And it's 4th down now. Do you go for it again? Pardon me, 3rd down. Are you in 4-down territory again?
I think you are. Yeah, I think you absolutely are. Going up against a defense that is this good, you're in a place exactly where you were last time, so why not take a shot? Derek Rogers, of course, has had to step up his game, the best speed guy on the outside, because Justin Hunter is down. Why not a play fake to try to get one over the top that we have seen happen against Florida and Ole Miss against this Alabama defense?
They're going to run it on 3rd and 5. Poole. Now, does that call confirm that it's 4-down territory? I mean,
well, it's a bad call. I'm not sure why you'd run a fullback dive against the best rushing defense in the country. If you're in 4-down territory, which they are, and now they're going to go for it, I'd think about maybe a wide receiver screen here if I was Alabama defensively. But why would you call such a conservative call if you knew you were going to go for it on 4th down?
Here comes the noise. Sims given time. Catch made, and a great move by Rogers to pick up the 1st down. Derek Rogers working against Daquan McKenzie. And Tennessee converts with a 10-yard pickup on the play.
And Rogers, a guy who struggled with drops last week against LSU. Sims locked in just a little bit. And not bad coverage, but you've got to finish that if you're Daquan McKenzie. If he makes that tackle to turn over on downs for Alabama.
Arlen Lane now in the backfield, a single back set. And Lane with the carry. Trying to pound it up the middle against Josh Chapman and Jesse Williams. Might have gotten a yard on the play. Lane, the team's 2nd leading rusher coming into the ball game, a 6-foot freshman. A lot of young guys on this team, some 16 of them on both sides of the ball for Tennessee.
Kirby Smart, the defensive coordinator, also works with the linebackers. His secondary playing much better than they did last season. But he was talking about how stubborn Tennessee got with their run game, and he meant that as a compliment against LSU, and already starting to see that early in this game. I think it's to set up some play-action pass if I'm a Volunteer.
On 2nd and 9, Sims, there's the play action into the end zone and almost intercepted. Broken up nicely by Mark Barron, the hard-hitting free safety.
Not a good throw by Matt Sims. The ball was thrown over his receiver. He locked in on it, and of course Tyler Bray, who was having a statistically amazing season, broke his thumb 2 weeks ago against Georgia. But Sims got locked in a little bit, and lucky that Barron didn't pick that off. And Sims threw an interception in a very similar situation last week against LSU.
3rd and 9. Little heat coming. They dump it off on the screen, but not enough for the 1st down. Torn Poole pushed out of bounds after a gain of a couple. Now what do you do, Ed? Is it field goal or go again?
You got to kick it here. You need the points. You hung in there, 4:17 left in the 1st. You moved the ball a little bit. Put the points on the board, try to get a little bit of confidence.
Michael Bilardi, the graduate of St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 6 of 9 this season.
Well, and Mount Cody's not in the game, so at least if you're Tennessee, you've got that going for you.
This is from 40 yards out. They get it down, and Bilardi nails it. And Tennessee off to a good start. The ball's in the house. Smokey putting some bark in his bite and biting his bark.
ESPN's College Football Primetime is presented by Triple Hops Brewed Miller Lite. Taste greatness. And in part by Buick. See real stories of human achievement on the Buick Human Highlight Reel at ncaa.com/Buick.
Well, you see the elephant right there, right? Well, Bama fans, folks, sometimes refer to their team as the Red Elephants, an informal nickname dating back to 1930 when Atlanta Journal sports writer Everett Strupper compared Alabama linemen to elephants in a 16-4-0 whooping of Ole Miss. Well, soon after, writers had occasion to refer to the team, Ed, as Red Elephants due to the color of their uniforms.
And now you know the rest of the story.
We all know the story behind the houndstooth, too. Tennessee with a 3-0 lead. Fumbled at the 10 by Mays. Fetches it. And is stopped short of the 20 at about the 17-yard line.
I'm not so sure. We were talking at the beginning of the game of being a trap game. Right now, and I know we're still early, just under 4 minutes left in the first quarter, but right now it looks like to me the team in white is a little more focused and prepared to play this. You know, we met yesterday with Nick Saban and he felt pretty good about preparation. Of course, they talk about not playing an opponent but playing to our standard. But right now, I'm not so sure the guys in red aren't questioning themselves a little bit with this team in white playing at a pretty high level.
First down and 10. Karen taking a shot up top for Mays. Caught and on the move. Mays brought down at the 13. He got in behind Marcellus Teague and picked up 69 on the play.
Teague was a guy who struggled earlier in the season, and this is just straight one-on-one. There is no middle safety, and that's just a foot race. Not much of a move by Mays, but he just ran right by, and the freshman Randolph safety had to come over to make the touchdown saving tackle.
First and 10. Richardson moves the pile down to the 9-yard line. Gains about 3 on the play where Malik Jackson makes the stop.
And that's one thing that Alabama has been trying to develop offensively is a deep threat. They're hoping that DeAndrew White, a true freshman, will come along. Kenny Bell, a sophomore. And Mays is more of an inside receiver. Doesn't have quite that top-end speed. But that time, McElwain doing a nice job of calling his number and getting the coverage he wanted against the player he wanted it against.
Second and 7. Karen with time, and now running out of time out of the pocket. Incomplete in the end zone. It'll be 3rd and 7 coming up. Good pressure up front from Jaquez Smith, who was all freshman SEC a year ago.
This defensive line for Tennessee, they're blocked, but the coverage has been, other than the long throw to Mays, the coverage has been very good so far by the Volunteers. And give credit to McCarron keeping that alive and throwing it away for a 3rd and 7. This feels to me like maybe draw Trent Richardson time. I'm not so sure that Nick Saban wants to see them get too fancy here.
Little bunch formation to the left. Richardson in motion. McCarron flushed out again and has to throw it away this time. The Volunteer defense responding with their backs up against the end zone.
That's 2 times in a row down here in the red zone. You lose the vertical stretch as an offense. So you've got all your players limited to how far they can run down the field and stretch the defense. But that's 2 plays in a row where Derek Dooley's defense was perfect in coverage. The protection was there. There was absolutely nobody open. And that bunch formation where they were trying to crisscross people picked up perfectly by Tennessee.
And in comes Jeremy Shelley, the place kicker, 9 of 11 this season. This one coming from 26 yards out. And he knocks it through to tie the game at 3 apiece. But in a game where sometimes little moral victories along the road can be helpful, Volunteers notch one there. 94th edition of Tennessee against Alabama. I know it's not the third Saturday of October. It's the fourth technically, but this one of the more storied rivalries in Southeast Conference football.
And a lot of talk this week about this rivalry potentially going away. It's looking more and more likely that Missouri will join the conference as the 14th team. And when you get that, you're going to have 6 games within your own side of the division, 2 from the other side. And they've talked about keeping some natural rivalries. I would assume that Alabama and Tennessee would link up if they were in the East and the West in that, but you never know until it's all settled.
And of course, Nick Saban, as you probably heard, had some very strong, profound words in his response to the media, local media, when inquiring about this rivalry perhaps leaving the college football landscape, or the potential of it. This is Dervin Young on the kickoff return, out to the 28-yard line. Now it's time for our rivalry history, brought to you by Sprint. Alabama leading the all-time series, including 4 consecutive wins.
And only the 7th time that Tennessee has played here, because they played this game for years in Birmingham.
And you underscored the point. I mean, scheduling becomes a little bit of an issue now in a potentially expanded SEC. 1st and 10 for the Vols. Matt Sims at quarterback, filling in for Tyler Bray. He broke his thumb a couple of weeks ago against Georgia. Poole in the backfield, and he takes the handoff. Picks up about 2 on the play.
Well, you were talking about the words Nick Saban had this week for the media, where he got upset because the media kept asking him about the Tennessee rivalry, and it wasn't going to go away with expansion, and they kept talking about the Heisman hopes for Trent Richardson. And to paraphrase, he said, "I don't care." But I understand his frustration. This guy is paid to worry about Saturdays, and he was just getting frustrated. Guys, can we just talk about the game on Saturday? And no one would talk about it because of all of the off-the-field things we're all forced to talk about these days with expansion and everything else.
Poole picks up a couple on the play, and Nick Saban saying that because of the expectations here in Alabama, we really don't have any celebrated wins, which is kind of a sad state of affairs when you look at a team that's won a national championship just 2 years ago.
Yeah, it is difficult at a place like Alabama. The expectation level is that you're going to play for the national championship every year. So even when you get a good, hard-fought win, nobody really seems to care.
Sims incomplete behind Rogers, his intended receiver, and Rogers comes up shaking his head. He was covered by Milner on the play, and it's a quick 3 and out for Tennessee. And Matt Sims got the starting job, as I mentioned, when Tyler Bray was injured, and Sims a very harsh critic last week of his own performance, in saying that, hey, I wasn't very good in that loss against LSU when he went just 6 of 20. And Michael Pilardi now comes in to punt. Mays standing back at his own 25. Pilardi with a high but short kick. Mays feels it on the run and juggles it out of bounds at about the 40-yard line. And let's go downstairs to Janine. What are they saying to quarterback Sims?
Well, you just touched on it, Mark, about that game last week with LSU, and he did throw 2 picks, and he was very down on himself. And just before this offensive series here, he got some advice from the quarterback's coach, who told him, hey, just be careful that you're not telegraphing your throws by keeping your eyes on the receiver the whole time. That's what bit you last week. And just another note on Tennessee, coach is trying to be very positive and very upbeat, because the entire team was very down on themselves after last week's game, guys.
That can be demoralizing when you play the #1 team at the BCS, LSU. 1st down and 10 for Alabama. McCarron wide open at the 38. Darius Hanks with the 1st down.
And that was a blown coverage by Tennessee. We've talked about how good their coverage has been, but they lost sight of Hanks, who was lined up in the slot. Good read by McCarron. Again, good protection by this offensive line. I've been really impressed with Alabama's offensive line, getting to watch them on tape the last couple of weeks and against Ole Miss. And Nick Saban, before last week's game, was saying that this offensive line probably a little better than even he thought they were going to be coming into the season. But the protection's been excellent so far this evening.
Eddie Lacy now in the backfield behind McCarron. And he makes the catch out of the backfield. Eddie Lacy, the number 2 tailback behind Trent Richardson. A.J. Johnson pushed him out of bounds. Lacy coming off a turf toe injury. Moving pretty well, though, Ed, on that first reception of his.
And with a turf toe, you have to be very careful. Trying to kind of feather him in a little bit, get him back up to game speed. But one misstep, and that never had one. It was such a painful injury. It's that big toe knuckle down right at the bottom of your foot. And you get so much pain in that big joint of your big toe that if you jam that foot the wrong way, it goes all the way back to the beginning of that injury.
Well, Alabama trying to defend the home turf here, tied at 3 after the first 15 minutes of play. And fittingly, the Alabama state motto is, "We dare to defend our rights." Back in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, I'm Mark Jones along with Ed Cunningham and Janine Edwards down on the sidelines. Top of the hour, here's what's happening now. Tennessee looking for its first win here since 2003. And here's what's ahead. Trent Richardson looking for its 7th consecutive 100-plus yard rushing game, which would set an Alabama record. He currently holds the record right now with Sean Alexander. 2nd and 5 to begin the second period. Eddie Lacy, though, in the backfield with Richardson on the sidelines. Play fake. McCarron completes it to Lacy down at the 24-yard line. That's going to be enough for a first down. Picks up 9. Majid made the tackle on the play.
Alabama has been very good offensively, answering when they've trailed. They were down 3-0 in this game. And, of course, against Florida and Ole Miss, they gave up touchdowns to go down 7-0. The offense came right back and scored. Let's see how they answer this one.
Here's Lacy. Slips and falls across the 25 down to the 24, where Johnson makes the stop. It's interesting. You talk about Richardson and his gaudy numbers. Lacy in there right now. We saw Jalson Fowler, the 3rd-string tailback, last week at Ole Miss, go for over 100 yards. It's a testament to their depth.
Well, when you have the number 1, 2, or 3 recruiting class in the country every year that you've been here, which is what Nick Saban's done. I think the worst recruiting class he's had was ranked number 5. You do start to develop some depth. And the one thing they do as well or better than any program is develop the talent once it's in the program.
Just underway in the second quarter. There's Lacy. That Tennessee defense pretty staunch up the middle, stops them short of the first down.
And I know they like Lacy, but to me, it feels like they're making the choice that Lacy's in there. I think it's time to get Richardson back in the game. Not there, and as he comes out onto the field, I think Jim McElwain, the offensive coordinator, is starting to think we better have our best players in there. Now, this feels to me like somewhere, and there's Lacy looking like he's limping maybe just a little bit on that turf toe as he comes off the field.
Richardson has run the ball 4 times for 17 yards. 3rd and long. They got to get to the 15. McCarron complete to Richardson. And there you see why he bench presses 450 pounds, squats 600 pounds, and runs a 4.4. He moved the pile, Ed, about 3 yards.
He was hit before the sticks. Not so sure that Alabama would have gone for it on 4th and short. But again, good protection by the offensive line. Nowhere to go for McCarron. Richardson, and a nice catch, too. He had to bobble that to himself, but still pushed the pile forward.
Those numbers make any guy going to the gym jealous. 1st and 10 from the 12. McCarron incomplete through the hands of his tight end, Michael Williams. And it'll be 2nd and 10.
McCarron looks like he may be overthinking stuff a little bit right now. He's holding on to the ball a little too long. He's had a couple of things come open, and it may be in his head a little bit, trying to be perfect. You know, here's a guy in his first year as a starter, of course, took over for Greg McElroy, but early in this game, there's been a couple of times where things have come open right away, and he's not pulling the string on.
Handoff to Richardson. And Richardson brought down inside the 10, picks up about 3, so it becomes 3rd and 7. And there's no Julio Jones this year. Ed, they're doing it in a by-committee type of approach, aren't they?
Yeah, and when you had a Julio Jones, of course, you would think something like a fade here might be a good throw, and you just don't have someone on the outside. So what they've been doing with guys like Mays and Smelly, the tight end, is working the middle of the field. So look for something in this bunch formation with Smelly, Mays, and Williams over to the left. Watch them try to cross each other and create some confusion.
Got to get down to the 2 for the first down. They run it with Richardson. A lot of white jerseys. He reverses field, but nowhere to go. The Volunteer defense swarming and motivated. And they come up with another stop against Alabama.
Very conservative call for Alabama that I don't mind. They're deep in their own territory. They're at home. They're trying to get something going here. And that was just good defense at the point of attack by 58 Marlon Walls. No chance at all pushing Fluker, the right tackle, back into the backfield. But again, you've got the best defense in the country. McCarron not looking exactly settled down. I don't mind the conservative call by McElroy.
This one from almost 30 yards out. And Shelley knocks it through, giving Alabama a 6-3 lead with just under 11 minutes to go here in the first half of play. Alabama trying to stay undefeated and avoid the trap. And welcome back, everyone, to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Glow at night. Look at one of the intersections downtown. And Ed, we had a great meal last night at the restaurant 5. Our guy Jeremy, the manager, hooking us up with some great food. And folks, don't forget the Chase heads to NASCAR's biggest wild card, Talladega, where points leader Carl Edwards will try to hold back a surging Kyle Busch. And Jimmy Johnson will look to bounce back from last week's setback. The chase continues at Talladega Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN. Of course, Talladega about 2 hours northeast of here, up towards Atlanta. Poole and Young back deep for Tennessee. This is Young. Ran up his own man's back and is brought down just shy of the 20-yard line. It'll be first down and 10 for quarterback Matt Sims and the Tennessee offense.
And Janine was reporting that quarterback's coach Karen Hinshaw talking about don't lock in on your receivers. We saw that when he locked in, and Mark Barron almost made him pay. So wouldn't be surprised if Jim Chaney, the offensive coordinator for Tennessee, start getting that run back into the mix a little bit. But a guy that was really quiet last week already has 1 catch. Maybe Michael Rivera, the tight end, starts to become a part of the offense.
First and 10, some heat on Sims, and he gets rid of it, but there's a flag down on the play. Dante Hightower was in on the pressure. Matt Sims, of course, if you don't know, the son of NFL Hall of Famer Phil Sims.
Holding, offense, number 78.
Alex Bullard with his first start at center got beat there by Nico Johnson. Johnson, who was the defensive player.
And Sims took a hit.
Boy, that is a big hit. But, Bullard it's such a tough deal to get your first start at center against this defense. They needed to make a change because they were having so many problems with the snap.
Torrin Poole takes the handoff, breaks a couple of tackles, and Poole out to the 23-yard line. Nice run. You almost get the feeling, Ed, before Barron takes him down, that Torrin Poole has been hearing all this talk about Trent Richardson and the Heisman this week, that he's trying to show out a little bit too.
And the coaches talk. This is a guy who ran for over 1,000 yards last year. Of course, he's first back since 07. Last year to run for over 100 yards, and no one since as an individual. But the coaches are talking about, it looks like Poole is playing like he did last year. Probably put a little too much pressure on himself as a senior earlier in the year.
Here's Poole again. This time stopped up short of the 25, gets about 2 on the play. You know, a defining point in that guy's career. It goes back to a couple of years ago when Lane Kiffin was still the head coach, and Kiffin tried to sub him in late in the game, late fourth quarter in a blowout, and Poole respectfully declined to get into the game and go into the game. And at that point, he was the 4th-string tailback, thought he was done, but his players, his teammates stuck with him, and he eventually worked his way back up the depth chart to the point where now he's entrenched as the #1 guy. 3rd and 5. And flags again. An offensive line having some issues.
Offense, number 64. 5-yard penalty.
Ed, you played that position.
3rd down.
Tell us what it's like when you're listening to 100,000 and you're trying to communicate with your guys up front.
Well, and remember, you've got a change in there where Alex Bullard now goes to the center. James Stone moves over to the left guard. So it exacerbates that problem. But it's very difficult when you start talking. Here's what happens. You forget the snap count. When you start
Really?
talking, yeah,
Wow.
if you start saying, hey, you've got this guy, I've got that guy, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, no, I forgot what the count was. They're going with a silent now, so that shouldn't be a problem.
Sims threads it in there for the 1st down, and then some. Derrick Rogers, a dangerous receiver all the way out to the 41-yard line in a 21-yard pickup. Well, silent count got him off okay.
And a good job by Sims. Derrick Rogers, the top receiver, running the slant. A really nice move, but that ball was thrown on time. And that's one of the things they've been working with. Of course, Sims was a starter last year for the first 4 games and then supplanted by the freshman Tyler Bray, but that's one of the things they've been working on, is get the ball there on time. Good move by Rogers. Sticks it, comes inside. Sims threw the ball on time. Big 1st down.
Arlen Lane in the backfield out of the offset eye. He gets the carry. And Lane out over the 45, picks up about 5 on the play.
I'm going to go back a minute ago. We were just talking about the offensive line and guys jumping off sides. That also has a lot to do with the guys across from you.
How so?
Well, when they're as good as the guys in Crimson, you want to get a jump, especially when a guy like Upshaw, you know, we saw earlier the left tackle Dallas Thomas jump. And Courtney Upshaw is such a good pass rusher. Even though you may be going silent, you get a little jumpy sometimes.
Sims completes it out of the backfield. That's Young. And Young gets about 2. It'll be 3rd down and about a long 3 to go. But so far, Tennessee hanging tough. And Alabama defensively, look at the number of rush yards they've given up. Not many.
You go back to last year against Michigan State in the Capital One Bowl. This is a defense that's averaged under 30 yards per game allowed. And right now, Jim Chaney, the offensive coordinator, starting to feel a little something with his offensive line and getting Torrin Poole going.
Sims given time. Boy, he rushed that one, and he had Rogers wide open. Sims tapping his uniform, his jersey, and saying, my bad. And 4th down.
We're talking about how hard he was on himself after that game last week. You've got to keep him away from that. You're in the flow of the game. That was not a good throw. Make sure he comes over. Get your quarterback coach talking to him. Get Jim Chaney talking to him, the offensive coordinator. Don't let him start to beat himself up, because they've got a few things working. You can't have your quarterback go in the tank a little bit because of one bad throw.
Already averaging a little over 40 yards, and it's a fake. Wide open. And a 1st down for the Volunteers. They caught Bama napping. Anthony Anderson made the catch, and that might be a face mask on the sidelines by Alabama. So a little trickery by Derek Dooley and the Volunteers. And a 1st down for Tennessee.
I love the aggressive call.
Personal foul, face mask, Defense, number 91. The penalty is 15 yards, and then the run, automatic first down.
And you had to know with Michael Pilardi, the normal snapper is Matt Darr. And I'm sure Alabama did not quite identify him. A left-handed guy makes a nice throw, and there's the penalty on Kirkpatrick.
That's about as good a throw you're going to see from a punter.
Nice, really nice throw. Well, but that's the trick part of it, is Pilardi's the kicker. So you put in the guy who can throw it better, and I love this call by Derek Dooley. On the road, only down 3, under 7 minutes in the second quarter. Let's see if they can convert.
The student fooling the mentor that time as Dooley pulls a fast one on Saban. Poole with nowhere to go. Barely gets back to the line of scrimmage. Pilardi with a nice pass a few moments ago. Talked about Dooley. He worked for Saban at LSU and again with the Miami Dolphins after that.
And you know what he served as for a while under Coach Saban? Was the special teams coordinator.
Interesting.
So, I'm sure Nick Saban has seen that before while Dooley was coaching for him.
On 2nd and 10. Good ball handling on the play fake. Sims threads it in there and a big hit at the 29-yard line. Incomplete. Intended for Poole, jarred loose by Hightower. We go back to Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thank you very much. It's a Taco Bell studio update. USC at Notre Dame. Matt Barkley to Robert Woods. Barkley 6 for 6, 2 touchdowns, and the Trojans lead 14-0.
All right, Wendy back here. It's 3rd and long for Tennessee.
To me, I don't think you want to throw this ball over the middle if you're Tennessee. 5 or 6 yards, you're in field goal range for perhaps a draw.
10th play of the drive. Poole, but there's a flag down, and Poole falls down at about the 31. Courtney Shaw in on the stop for Alabama. A protracted discussion here.
Before the play clock expired, timeout, Tennessee. Second timeout this half.
Second time we've seen that scenario. So Derek Dooley rolling the dice and having it pay off. Let's see what he's got up his sleeve next time when we come back.
ESPN's College Football Primetime. Brought to you by the new Dr. Pepper 10. With the classic taste of Dr. Pepper packed into 10 bold tasting calories. One thing's for sure, it's not for women.
Well, at the Alabama Museum of Natural History you're looking at, this is the home of Annie Hodges, who was the first person ever to be injured by a meteorite. That's right. Mrs. Hodges was napping in her living room when the meteorite came through the ceiling, hit her radio, then hit her in the hip. Now her name lives on as the structure, and the object is now called the Hodges meteorite. You talk about a 1 in a million occurrence. Tennessee trying to pull off a 1 in a million, perhaps, potential win here, and hanging tough. 6-3, a prohibitive underdog. 3rd and 11, tipped up and incomplete. Now, what do you do on 4th down if you're the Volunteers? On the fringes of field goal range for Pilardi.
I think you've got to. Well, they're going to bring Pilardi out, and this is right in his range. His career long was earlier in the year from 43 yards out, so this obviously will be a new career long. The problem here is when you're on the road, a lot of adrenaline, long kicks. Sometimes you drive this low, and of course, remember, 2 years ago there was 2 blocked field goals in that ball game.
This one from 52 yards out. He drives it. Got it! Pilardi ties it. A career long of 52 yards. And Derek Dooley perhaps inspiring a little bit more confidence in his kicker by calling his number. Who would have thought that with just under 6 minutes to go in the first half, the Volunteers would be hanging in, tied at 6 apiece. It's a game of inches, but that made it by a couple of feet. A great 15-minute sequence by kicker Mike Pilardi out of St. Thomas Aquinas in South Florida. First, the throw on the fake head.
And he comes in for the regular punter Dar and finds Anthony Anderson. Then you get the 15 yards tacked on. Alabama's defense stiffens and causes the stop. And then Pilardi comes in and a career-long 52-yarder that would have been good from 52 and a half. What a nice job by Pilardi. He gets the call by the coach. It looked like it was not going to pay off with any points.
It's interesting, you know, former Alabama kicker P.J. Fitzgerald, a South Florida resident and a neighbor of mine, telling me that Pilardi has tremendous talent. The two of them, a little bit of a mutual admiration society going. Pilardi has a tendency to drive the ball, but that one got up and good in a nice way for the Volunteers. 2 yards deep, it's Mays. And Mays stopped up at about the 20-yard line, where it'll be first down and 10 for the Tide. Well, join Reese Davis and analyst Kirk Herbstreit and Craig James for BCS Countdown Sunday night as they unveil the latest BCS polls and analyze who are the contenders versus the pretenders. BCS Countdown presented by Vizio on ESPN Sunday at 8:15 Eastern and continues on ESPNU at 9 o'clock Eastern time.
And I can just hear people right now talking about LSU blowing out Auburn, saying, oh, Alabama's overrated. They're going to get beat by LSU in 2 weeks. Settle down a little bit. We got a long way to go here, although give Tennessee some credit for how well they've played in this first half.
Here they are on 1st and 10, Alabama. Flag down, and McCarron completes it underneath. That's Mays. Straight arm and out of bounds. See what this flag is all about. A 19-yard gain if it stands.
Illegal motion, offense, number 2, 5-yard penalty for previous spot. Repeat, first down.
Let's check in with Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thank you. We go straight to a pivotal matchup on ESPN right now in East Lansing, Wisconsin at Michigan State. Russell Wilson to Jacob Peterson. A 9-yard TD pass, but Monty Ball has since added another, and it is 14-0 Badgers. Stanford is on the board, 7-0 Washington on ABC, and Oklahoma delayed by lightning, not expected to resume for at least half an hour.
Mother Nature playing a role there. Stanford taking on your alma mater, Ed. There's Richardson, another Heisman Trophy candidate. You talk about Stanford and Luck at quarterback, and you know, Russell Wilson at quarterback in that Wisconsin-Michigan State game. How do you handicap things right now?
I think those are your top three. Kind of nice that they're all playing at roughly the same time. And I think also you've got to start getting Taj Boyd from Clemson into the mix. Had a wonderful day today against North Carolina. If they're able to run it out, they would have beaten 2 SEC opponents, and he's having a nice season.
On 2nd and 7, here's the counter by Richardson. The pile moves close to the 30. It's in 3rd and short after the gain of 6. One more look. You know, I was speaking with Gino Toretta, who is a former Heisman Trophy winner here doing the game for radio, and he says that he's not ready to cast his vote in any of those top 3 guys yet because there's so many defining games, big games to be played by each of Richardson, Wilson, and Luck.
And what's nice about those top 3, if their team continues to move forward, they will play in a championship game within their conference. So we'll get another look. I'm a voter as well. Get another look at their body of work with a good opponent game at the end of the season.
Richardson picks up the first down, and Richardson's numbers pretty much on par with Mark Ingram, who won the Heisman Trophy a couple of years ago, playing the same position in the same uniform. Now with the NFL's New Orleans Saints, and Trent Richardson and Ingram, good friends still.
And now it feels like Alabama getting back a little bit to Richardson time here as the second quarter winds down.
McCarron over the middle. The pass caught at about the 38-yard line. It's Marquise Mays picking up 4. Second down and about 6 to go for Alabama, coming into this game 4-0 in conference play. Got a game next week, and then pardon me, they have a week off, and then the big one against LSU. LSU handling their business today earlier against Auburn. Are you surprised by the margin of victory in that game?
You know, I've seen Auburn a couple of times. I saw them against Clemson. That's a team that's had its ups and downs, and defensively they've just struggled. They sort of get a little better, but not much competition against Tigers. Not surprised that much.
Richardson stopped up after a gain of about 1 by Maurice Couch, a junior college transfer for the Volunteers. This Tennessee defense has done a nice job so far in this game under Justin Wilcox.
Defensively up front, they haven't gotten much pressure, but they've been pretty good and pretty stout against the run. Now you've got a huge third down if you're Tennessee with the clock running. Tie ball game. I don't think anybody in the country expected this to be a tie ball game. Look for the inside receiver. This is where Darius Hanks usually makes some trouble for the defense.
That's number 15. Karen fires for him, incomplete. As predicted by you, Ed, they go to him, but it's a 3 and out.
And that was wonderful coverage by Austin Johnson, the senior linebacker for Tennessee. Read that the whole way. A little bit of a tendency, maybe, studying the tape, that Hanks is a guy on when they get into the red zone or they get the third and medium, a guy that they go for, and a big stop for Tennessee defensively with time left on the clock, even though they've burnt 2 of their timeouts.
And Dell punting. Young is standing on his own 20-yard line. Young calling for the fair catch right at the 20. So Tennessee with 1 timeout remaining and 2:12 left on the clock. Hey, if Sims can move it down the field and let Velarde do his thing, who knows? They might have the lead at the break. Who would have thought? Welcome back, everyone, to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Nick Saban's team deadlocked with Tennessee 6-6. And Ed Cunningham, who would have thought that the game would have been tied at this point? Not many people.
I did. Absolutely. No, just kidding. I'm shocked by this. Yeah. But the biggest shock being that Alabama, who's been relying on the run, 39 yards so far. They're averaging over 240. They had almost 400 yards last week rushing against Ole Miss. And A.J. McCarron looks tight to me. I think maybe some guys are starting to get in their head a little bit, thinking about a perfect season, getting a week off, going to play LSU. And I know the coaches told us they weren't as concerned about that, but it's kind of what it looks like to me so far.
Alabama missing a little bit of pop right now, and Torn Poole with a nice run out to about the 25, gets 5, and Janine has more.
Well, guys, and, you know, we've been looking for signs. It's human nature to have a little bit of a letdown. And, you know, the Alabama coaches told us they thought their Thursday practice was a little flat. Right now, they are getting into their defense and saying, guys, your heads are not in this game.
Tennessee with echoes of 2009 and that near miss resonating with them coming into the game tonight. 2nd and 5. Poole again. Got about 1. It'll be 3rd and 4. How do you manage the clock here, Ed, with 1 timeout to go?
Well, you want to try to save it if you can, if you need it later. But if I'm Alabama, I'd be calling a timeout. I'm not sure why Nick Saban is saving this. These timeouts, the clock's going to continue to melt. And if I'm Derek Dooley, I'm not in a huge rush right now if they're not going to use a timeout. I would love to get into the locker room down 6-6. You've got bad field position right now. This is, I think this is mismanagement by Alabama. I think that they should have used a timeout at the end of that play.
Derek Dooley looking very poised and cavalier on the sidelines.
And a great use of the last timeout by Derek Dooley. Again, going back to student and mentor, I give the advantage to Derek Dooley on this clock management.
As he burns his final timeout, contemplating his next move with 52 seconds to go in the first half. Back with more after this.
I'm Wendy. Next in our college football studios, coming up on the Outback Steakhouse halftime report, a number of Heisman hopefuls in action tonight. We'll check on the 10 remaining undefeated teams, and we head to South Bend, where the Irish and Trojans renew their rivalry. I'm joined by Robert Smith and Todd McShay at the half.
All right, Wendy, here's Sims under heat on 3rd and 5. Throws it away and burned a little bit of time on the clock. 4th down. Alabama with those 3 timeouts remaining will get the ball back here with under 46 seconds to go.
A little bit of a break for Alabama with the incomplete pass, stopping the clock. But Sims did a good job keeping it alive, burn a few more seconds.
Marquise May is going to be standing at his own 32-yard line. He's one of the top punt returners in the SEC coming into tonight's action.
Topped an 83-yarder against Arkansas that blew that game open.
Dar with a high spiral. Good coverage by the Vols and a fair catch called back at the 33-yard line by Mays with 38 seconds to go in the first half. A 41-yard punt and nothing on the return, and that's where McCarron will take the reins of the offense. Do they take a shot?
I think be aggressive. You've got the 3 timeouts. You've got a guy, yes, he threw an interception earlier in the game, but he's been so good not throwing the ball to the other team up until that point. So I think you give him a chance here. You've got 38 seconds, 3 timeouts. You can work any part of the field, and that's what makes it hard for the defense is I think you work over the middle and use those timeouts very quickly, though, if you catch it before the sticks.
McCarron working out of the shotgun. Completes the pass at the 35 to Kenny Bell, his first catch of the night. And the clock stops as Alabama calls one of its remaining time. McCarron threw an interception tonight for the first time in over 150 attempts going back to the first game of the season. It was picked off on an early drive in the ball game, setting the tone for Tennessee to really hang in. And when you think about 2009, the close call that Tennessee had here, it came down to the dying seconds of the game and a field goal attempt that was blocked. Here it is.
Crompton back to throw. Fires a pass wide open down to the 5. Touchdown, Tennessee. Looking for the onside kick. It's a high hopper that's going to be batted around and recovered by Tennessee.
The spot. It's blocked by Alabama. Terrence Cody for the second time got a piece of that one. The Crimson Tide wins.
And it was 2 blocked field goals by Terrence Cody that actually saved the game for Nick Saban and saved the national championship for the Crimson Tide. And starting to feel, of course, Lane Kiffin was the head coach that season, the one and done before he went to USC. But this game kind of has a little bit of that feel to it.
2nd and 7 for Alabama. McCarron under duress and sacked back at the 32-yard line. Number 97, Malik Jackson, the transfer from USC.
And now I think because of that sack, I think that Nick Saban just wants to head to the locker room. Doesn't want to make a mistake on his side of the field. I do not blame him. This has been as tough a half as they have had all season.
Get this, Ed. Alabama tied at the half for the first time this season. Held to no touchdowns for the first time in a half this season. And Derek Dooley standing by with our Janine Edwards.
Coach, a tie score. How do you think your players are feeling about themselves right now?
Well, they're fighting their tails off. This is a great football team we're playing, but we're doing a good job against the run. We haven't given up. We gave up 1 big play. We got to complete some 3rd down throws. That's what's hurting us right now.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Well, Derek Dooley was telling everyone willing to listen that this was Nick Saban's best team ever. Let's go back to Wendy Nix in the studio. Wendy, with the Outback Steakhouse report, it might have been a little rope-a-dope by Dooley.
Not so fast, Mark Jones. 1 half does not a season make, but you heard Derek Dooley say his team doing a good job against the run, and he's right. Trenton Richardson, 10 carries for 37 yards. Tennessee did not go to Alabama for a moral victory, but 6-6 at the half is pretty close.
I mean, there's no question about it. This is a young team. You look down the roster here, you only see 5 seniors in the 2 deep. Really, well, not on the 2 deep, but out of the starting 11 on both sides, really. You only see 5 seniors, and one of those, Matt Sims playing quarterback, isn't the regular starter. There's no question. This is a young team, and this is a huge confidence builder playing like that in the first half.
And for Alabama, they've got to go back to what they do well, running the football, get physical, and they've got to be able to hit the throws when you get man-to-man coverage on the outside. That's really the problem, is that Tennessee is walking a safety up, they're playing the 8-man fronts, and they're not getting exposed for it. That's the big thing that has to happen in the second half. A.J. McCarron has got to find Marquise Mays, and some of the other younger receivers have to step up and make big plays against man coverage.
Well, Tennessee has not won in Tuscaloosa since 2003, and you talk about playing the role of spoiler. We're all already looking ahead to that tremendous showdown with LSU. Let's say, not so fast, my friends. We got a second half to be played. Speaking of LSU, Jordan Jefferson, Jarrett Lee, both play in this one. Here's Kenny Hilliard, though, into the end zone.
Embarrassment of riches offensively and defensively for LSU. Hilliard, 5'11", 240 pounds, bruising back in place of Spencer Ware, who's been suspended.
One quarterback, Jefferson to Ruben Randall. Tigers up 14-3.
Jarrett Lee wants to get in on the action. So
here we go.
Lee to Randall. Again, this is against double coverage you see there. Randall's doing a great job of getting open vertically, and both the quarterbacks finding him open down the field. And, oh, by the way, embarrassment of riches at cornerback, 2 suspended. They didn't miss a beat. LSU wins big, 45-10 over Auburn.
A trio of Heisman hopeful quarterbacks in action tonight. Landry Jones, Russell Wilson, and don't forget Andrew Luck. A look at all 3 ahead.
Such is the SEC in Tuscaloosa, umbilically linked to a legendary figure. Program matters, set a standard. Talent abounds, you can assure. Gamesmanship held in highest regard. Worthy of the label, the best. For certain, that is our quest. Still wondering about this tide? Well, sit back, watch, and you decide. Over 100,000 strong under the lights. You're watching the SEC on ESPN from Bryant-Denny Stadium in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. A surprising first half of play. Some might even say shocking. 6-6 Alabama deadlocked with Tennessee. It's college football primetime presented by Miller Lite. Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Jones along with Ed Cunningham. Janine Edwards down in the field joining us shortly. The 94th edition of this matchup has been kind of surprising, but keep in mind in the last couple of contests, Ed, the Alabama Crimson Tide have come out in the third quarter and started to play pound ball.
And I would be shocked if we don't see that. Last week against Ole Miss, it was the Trent Richardson show in the second half. Vanderbilt, the same thing. A.J. McCarron, their quarterback right now, looks like he's in his head. He's not letting go of the ball, so I'd be shocked if we didn't see him come out and just hand off to Richardson a bunch here in the second half.
Let's take a look at our expert breakdown brought to you by Farmers Insurance. And what do you have in store for us?
Well, the expert on this one was Derek Dooley, the head coach, as he saw on film study that they may get a little bit of a cushion. Dre Kirkpatrick lined up too deep on Anthony Anderson, the gunner, on the punt. And Alabama probably not recognizing that Michael Pilardi, the kicker, was in, not their normal punter, Matt Darr. And then, of course, later in that drive, Pilardi finishes it off with a career-long 52-yarder as he sneaks it right inside the right upright. So the expert there was Dooley. The guy who executed the expertise was Pilardi.
Tennessee will receive the kick to begin the third quarter. Devrin Young back deep along with Torn Poole. Tennessee's at 3-3. Alabama's undefeated season hanging in the balance here tonight. LSU has already won a convincing win tonight against Auburn. This is Young on the return. And Young stopped up short of the 25 at about the 23. Janine Edwards, what did Nick Saban have to say at halftime?
Well, Mark, you and Ed talked about the possibility of this being the trap game where the players maybe mentally let off the gas pedal a little bit. Nick Saban said it's sort of looking that way to him. He said, you know what? We had no energy in that first half. No enthusiasm, no focus. We were flat. each other's faces and still doing that when they came out onto the field.
All right, Janine, as Poole gets about 3 yards on first down, maybe a little bit more, and it speaks to the leadership and the equity that the Alabama players take in their own team when they get on each other. It's not left to the coaches.
And that's one of the things we were talking about yesterday. And we met with Nico Johnson, the linebacker, talking about how they've taken it upon themselves to be the ones who look after themselves. But the way Poole's been running, 50 yards in that first half, I would suspect they're going to get a mouthful of that guy here in the second half.
Sims completes the pass. That was Rajon Neal. Got about 2 on the play. Kirkpatrick with a quick tackle. It's going to be 3rd and about 5 to go.
And this is exactly what Derek Dooley said to Janine on the way off. We need to get some 3rd down throws completed. This is a 3rd down. Again, Rivera, the tight end. Remember a few weeks ago against Georgia how effective he was in this down and distance.
Pass complete on the screen out to the 30, but short of the first down. Mosley with the quick tackle on Torrin Poole. As we look at the Alabama players, Ed, they like to put stock in the fact that they reflect the disposition of their head coach, Nick Saban. Not too high, not too low, keeping an even keel. But when you need to get fired up, can you step on the emotional gas pedal?
They're trying. You know, Janine with the report about them getting each other's faces as they came out. That was a pretty good series of downs defensively for Alabama. And a great stop by Mosley on that screen.
A great punt, driving Mays all the way back to the 24-yard line. A 45-yard punt on the play by Matt Darr. Pardon me, that was Pilardi with the punt. And it'll be 1st down and 10 for A.J. McCarron. And boy, it speaks to your excellence and your passing efficiency when the one interception that you throw is the headline of the night for you. It was the first one in over 150 attempts dating back to the first game of the season. 1st down and 10 for Alabama. Pocket collapsing on McCarron. And he gets it out to Richardson. And Richardson rocked at the 45-yard line, but a 1st down for Alabama. A 22-yard gain on the play.
Little surprised that McCarron comes out in a spread formation with a drop back pass to start. They have a lot of confidence in him. He's a great preparer, starting to bring that to the field on Saturdays, but as shaky as he looked in the first half, a little surprised that they call that. And you see, when you give it to Richardson, some of the things that young man can do.
From the 47. Little bootleg action. Oh, what a great catch on the play by Darius Hanks. Laying out to make the grab and picking up 14. And another 1st down for the Tide.
This is something we saw last week against Ole Miss. They love to use Mays and Hanks on these crossing routes. And Hanks gets lost. That's Prentice Wagner on the coverage. Never got the cushion down. Couldn't get down fast enough to make the coverage.
Play action. Karen with all kinds of time. An amazing grab by Marquise Mays. And in 3 plays, Alabama knocking on the door.
And exactly opposite what I suspected we would see. This almost looks like we're in the Big 12 right now. Yeah, the way they're throwing it around. It's effective, so you can't question it, but I'm shocked that they're throwing it this much.
Alabama, the last couple of games, has really made a defining statement in the 3rd quarter. And doing it here. McCarron. Great pass. And it'll be 1st and goal. Brad Smelly with the catch. He eluded the tackle, McCarron did, of Marion Walls, the defensive end, and they pick up 17. 1st and goal in 4 plays.
Smelly does an excellent job from his fullback position. He comes in motion and lines up to the left He's going to come over here, and then he's going to go out into the flat. And when McCarron cannot find anybody open, including Smelly because there was a defender behind him, he does an excellent job and runs right by Brent Brewer. Good heads-up play by Smelly.
Tennessee calls timeout. Back with more after this. In 4 plays, A.J. McCarron has moved his team downfield. Right now from the 2-yard line, 1st and goal to begin the second half. He's 4 of 4 for 73 yards on this drive.
Excellent job calming him down at halftime. He looks like a different quarterback, moving around, throwing with accuracy, not holding on to the ball like he did in those first 2 quarters.
Richardson, the deep back out of the eye. Underwood in motion. McCarron gonna run it. Got to the pylon, touchdown.
Well, as McCarron came rolling over to the side, he was going to look for Smelly, but good coverage there by Majid. And Majid turned and had to run with Smelly. Smelly, we saw that 2 times where when he's not open, he does a good job of breaking away. And because he broke away and took Majid, the linebacker, with him, that opened up the lane for McCarron. Good read.
And McCarron with his 2nd rushing touchdown of the season and of his career. The extra point good, and Alabama leading by 7. And A.J. McCarron, inspired often pregame by his father. And Janine Edwards has more.
You know what? That's right, Mark. And A.J. shared with me the contents of a note that his dad slipped to him in pregame warm-ups. He said, along with little things like be accurate, be on time, he wrote how proud that we are of you and what you've accomplished, and never dreamed that when you said you wanted to play football at the age of 4, that you would be the starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. You know, guys, he's making his dad proud right now.
Yeah, it certainly is. Great story, and interesting in retrospect when you look back to last week in Oxford, Mississippi. A.J. McCarron barely got that note, the customary note from his father, who underwent an emergency procedure at a local hospital. Wasn't feeling well prior to the game Friday night, and made it back in time to keep the streak alive and see his son play.
His dad, Tony, has been working for the fire department for many years, and he said, I don't think I'm sick. I think I have an appendix problem. So he had an emergency appendectomy in Mississippi Friday late afternoon and evening, and the doctor kept telling him, who was, by the way, the doctor's an Ole Miss fan, and the guy kept teasing him, saying, I'm going to put red and blue stitches in for you. But he said, Doc, I don't care what it takes. I'm not missing. He's never missed one of A.J.'s games. He said, I'm not going to let a little bit of appendicitis be the thing that keeps me from missing the first game with my sons.
Doc wasn't ready to release him, but Doc really didn't have much say. From the 5, it's Young again. And Young out to the 30. Let's go back to Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thank you. Dr. Pepper 10 conference update. Stanford and Washington on ABC. 17-14 ball game, and then Stephon Taylor rips off the longest run of the season for the Cardinals, 70 yards. Washington misses a field goal. It's 24-14. Oklahoma and Texas Tech. This game in a lightning delay, scheduled to kick at 8 o'clock. Again, delayed by weather. We'll keep you updated and let you know when they get underway in Norman.
All right, Wendy. Here's Sims off the play fake, stepping up, backside pressure. He fumbles it. And Tennessee recovers the loose ball, but a big hit by Courtney Upshaw right there, number 41.
And that's 2 weeks in a row. Upshaw has caused a fumble on a sack. Did the exact same thing as he comes off the edge, working one-on-one against the fullback, Bartholomew. He's just, he never stops moving. He uses great hand leverage, slapped away Bartholomew. He's such a tough guy to block.
You hear offensive coordinators around the conference say every one of those starters is going to play in the NFL, or at least get a tryout. Poole on the carry. Out to the 30-yard line, gets about 6 on the play. It'll be 3rd down and about 4 to go. Actually shorter than that. Courtney Upshaw plays with a great motor. 4.5 sacks now on the season.
Number 1 in the conference in tackles for loss, averaging 1.5 per game coming into tonight. Also had an interception return for a touchdown against Florida.
3rd and 9 coming up. Backside pressure on Sims, but he completes it for the 1st down at the 40-yard. It is close. I'm going to take that back and say it is extremely close. A pickup of about 9. You think about going for it here?
Well, they're going fast. They're going to catch him off guard, and Alabama needs to get a timeout here. They're totally, and because, yeah, Nick Saban took a timeout. He did not expect that Tennessee was going to go for it. I like the aggressive call by Derek Dooley. Why not face it?
This is a 30-second timeout.
And if I'm Derek Dooley, I would go for it.
You still go for it,
absolutely. I think
even though Alabama now has a chance to line them up.
Yeah, I think you do. You've got about 6 inches to go. You're on the road, a game that no one in the world expected you to win. You've already done an aggressive call, doing the fake punt, picking up the 1st down to get 3 points in the 1st half. You know, the game might get out of hand if you miss it.
Derek Dooley trying to get his team up to the line of scrimmage real quick here, Ed. His hands are on fire.
Well, the officials, because there was a change of personnel for Tennessee offensively, the officials give the defense a moment to match that personnel change. But you don't get forever. And when Alabama really got confused, call it all by Derek Dooley. You're on the road, a game no one expects you to win. I like it.
The #1 defense in the country right now. Trying to hold on 4th and 1. They go quick on the quick count. And, man, this is going to be close. Let's look at the spot. Matt Sims kept it himself on the QB sneak.
Looked to me like on the push that he had it, and that looks like a good, accurate spot. Well, I'm not so sure.
I'm not sure about that spot.
I'm not so sure about that spot either, which is reviewable.
You could be spending a while here.
Now, with the ball in that left arm, you know what? I think it is a good spot, and this is reviewable. And Derek Dooley may choose to challenge this.
Looked like he got past that 40-yard line, though. That much short. It appeared as if he got past the 40.
Right, but the ball is down in his left arm. The ball is down in his left arm, and it's the progress of the ball. It looked to me like because of the push, the ball was going to get across. But here's the problem. Even if you review this, you're never going to be able to tell. If anything, Sims maybe should have pulled that ball out and reached forward with it. But I think it's an accurate spot. And they can't change it.
The coach is challenging the spot to determine the 1st down.
And I think that this is a good challenge by Derek Dooley. If they don't get it, he doesn't have another challenge the rest of the game, and he loses one of his timeouts. But there is no way that they're going to be able to overturn this spot because you couldn't see the ball. I think the mistakes that Sims makes is he just buries in behind his offensive line. He should have stayed up. He would have had the opportunity to reach the ball out over the 40-yard line. But because he buried, I think the spot's accurate. As he stops right there, it doesn't look to me. Yeah, with that ball in the left arm, here's a good shot at it here. No, that's an accurate spot. That ball looks like it's behind the 40-yard line. This is going to be Alabama ball.
Must be indisputable video evidence.
The problem you have as an offensive line, especially the guy snapping the ball, Alex Bullard, the defensive lineman, the second you move it, oftentimes will submarine underneath your legs. And so you can't get any push because they're at your feet at that point. And I think the mistake that Matt Sims made was he immediately buried into the back of his center.
As opposed to, you mentioned what, stepping back and then extending the ball out?
Well, you don't have to just, if you dive down and put your head down.
Review, the ruling on the field stands.
And that's the right review. There was no video evidence to overturn it. But with that ball down around his belly, now it's just about the push of your offensive line, and you're going against one of the better defensive lines in the entire country. I think you have to do something where pull that ball out, start moving. If they get to push, fine. If not, it gives you this last chance effort to stick the ball out over that line to make, which was the 40.
So Alabama takes over on downs on the Tennessee 40-yard line on their second possession of the second half. They scored on the first one. Eddie Lacy in the backfield. Richardson getting a little bit of a breather. May split out to the top of the screen. Bell to the bottom.
Yep. It was explaining where the ball was, and that's exactly right. If Matt had taken that ball, Sims had taken that ball and put it forward, I think they would have picked up the first down.
Off the play fake, they're going to take a shot. Bell. Touchdown, Tide. Alabama capitalizing immediately on the stop defensively. And Kenny Bell, reputed to be the fastest member of the receiving corps, with the touchdown. His first touchdown catch of the season. McCarron put it right where it needed to be.
McCarron does not even look like the same guy we saw in the first half, working one-on-one against Prentice Wagner. Great catch by Bell on a well-thrown ball.
ESPN's College Football Primetime, brought to you by John Hancock. The future is yours. And Carfax. Ask your dealer or go to Carfax.com. Just say, show me the Carfax.
Look at the Bear Bryant Museum here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. The late legendary coach there for the Crimson Tide. And Alabama taking control 20-6 right now with 8:20 to go in the third quarter play. And the signature houndstooth hat. And houndstooth at Cunningham, the prevailing sartorial pattern here in Tuscaloosa. I mean, it is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. They got houndstooth on everything. I think I saw a houndstooth sweatband with some guy working out this morning.
I saw a houndstooth tent in the parking lot. Yeah, they are everywhere.
On the return, it's Young, and Young brought down at the 22-yard line. Hey, Wendy Nix in the studio. You have any houndstooth in your wardrobe? We'll bring you some.
Please do. Thank you. We go to East Lansing. This game on ESPN. Michigan State trailing by 14 at one point. Then Keyshawn Martin on the reverse for 34 yards would make it 14-9. Here comes Sparty again. The 35-yard touchdown reception, courtesy of B.J. Cunningham. And Michigan State takes its first lead of the night. It's now 23-14.
All right, Wendy, Poole here on the run after Sims seemed to bobble the snap a little bit as Poole picks up 5 yards. How does Tennessee get themselves settled down a little bit, take a deep breath, and get back on track here?
I think they have to get something going with Poole. They had a little bit going offensively in the first half, and it was because they could get Poole on some positive runs, and I think that's a good start. But I think you miss that first down on the fourth down, you give up the first one. That's an awful big punch in the mouth, and learn a lot about your young team here if you're Derek Dooley.
Marlon Lane in the ball game. Sims running with it. And it's really tough to outrun the guys on defense for Alabama. Hightower, the leading tackler on the team coming in, reeled him in. And he got the big one.
And Dante Hightower lined up in the middle here. A little bit of a delay. It's not a blitz, but as soon as the quarterback takes off, he's in the coverage. And this is a guy in 2009 who blew out his knee, was wearing a big, heavy brace. He took it off last year right before the bowl game, and he feels like he's 2 steps faster without that brace on.
On the draw, Lane. And he's going to be about 3 yards short of the first down. So for Tennessee, it's a 3 and out. For Alabama, they're nation leading another 3 and out. They lead the country in 3 and outs.
You were talking about can you put your foot on the gas to get the emotion back? I think a lot of that has to do with how aggressive your coaches are. We talked about the aggressive call by Derek Dooley, but how about the aggressive call by Jim McElwain, the offensive coordinator for Alabama? As soon as they get the ball on downs, he goes over the top to Bell for a touchdown. So I think you can work hand in glove with your coaches and your players to get that emotion back, and they've done it very nicely.
14 unanswered points so far in the third quarter. Hayes watches it bounce at the 35, takes an Alabama bounce out to about the 37-yard line. And folks, hey, Sunday NFL Countdown returns this season with a new start time, 3 hours with the best in the business. Berman, Jackson, Johnson, Ditka, Carter, and Mortensen and Schefter as well, the insiders, providing all the news right up to the kickoff. Sunday NFL Countdown presented by IBM on ESPN Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. A.J. McCarron, noted by Saban to be one of the pleasant surprises of the season so far, the way that he's approached the game and the game plan during the week. Showing good leadership here in the second half. Lacey in the backfield. McCarron on the quick 3-step drop completes it to Marquise Mays as we go back to Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thank you. We go back to ESPN. Michigan State again forcing the Badgers to punt. Kyler Ellsworth blocks the punt and then the touchdown, and Sparty scores the last 3 times in the first half. That with 45 seconds to go, 23-14.
Sparty's special teams getting a big one there, and key game in the Big Ten there tonight.
We have not seen a handoff yet. The only run we saw was McCarron on the touchdown when he was trying to throw it.
There's Eddie Lacy. Well, there's a pretty impressive run by Eddie Lacy. One of the few that we've seen this half. And a first down for Alabama.
They have so many big backs. You mentioned Jalston Fowler. He's 246 pounds. Lacy's 220. Trent Richardson's 224. This is part of the rotation, trying to keep Richardson fresh, but I would assume he's fresh. He hasn't had much work.
There's Lacy again, gets to the edge. And Lacy chopped down at about the 20-yard line. Another first down before Brian Randolph made the stop. He picked up 19 and looking pretty good on that repaired wheel of his.
Running a little stiff there. Richardson comes back in. I would be careful. You want this guy, get him into, not saying that this game is over by any stretch, but you have Fowler. I'd be very hesitant if I were the Alabama coaches keeping Lacy in there, especially with a bye week coming up.
This is Richardson, runs it into the boundary. Got a first down, and it'll be first and goal for Alabama.
And now Alabama doing whatever they want. Was shocked that they came out throwing it as much as they did to start the half. But now that softened Tennessee up a bit, and it looks like they can do whatever they want. Be surprised if this isn't Richardson again.
Adding up the stats, his Heisman campaign. First and goal for Alabama. There's Richardson. Cuts it back. And stopped up short of the end zone at about the 1-yard line, but there's a flag down on the play.
Well, this is Malik Jackson causing havoc in the middle of the offensive line.
Holding, offense, number 73. Penalty is 10 yards.
And this is exactly what Jackson did last week against LSU. Watch the penetration as Vlahos, the center, tries to get over there. Vlahos grabs that jersey and tackles him. We saw 2 penalties last week against Vlahos against Ole Miss. And this is a guy, very bright future, transferred from USC, senior. Played a little out of position. He's probably more of a defensive end at 6'5", 270, but he's got really long arms and he's very powerful. And the other thing he does, he gets off on the snap very quickly.
One of his better games last week against the LSU Tigers. They back it up. Little receiver screen to Mays, and good tackling by Tennessee at the 12-yard line, led by Brian Randolph. McCarron, meanwhile, has hit his last 8 passes in a row.
And Randolph, a guy who, a true freshman, because of his growth at that free safety position, they've been able to take Prentice Wagner, who's more of a true corner, who had been playing free safety, move him out to corner. So the coaches who were talking to Justin Wilcox saying this young man, you tell him something once and he makes the adjustment. Very intelligent, tough. They think he'll grow a little bit. He's 190 pounds, get up to that 200, 210. They expect a bright future out of him.
Out of Marietta, Georgia. He's gotten a lot of good ones out of that state. There's Richardson between the tackles, still on his feet. Hocus pocus. Touchdown, Tide. Well, put one more on the resume reel for the Heisman Trophy candidate, Trent Richardson, as he tiptoed his way between the tackles. And Alabama storming out of the gate here in the 3rd quarter with 21 consecutive points. There are some defining moments, indelible moments for the guy that ultimately takes home that Heisman. You can clip this one on for Trent Richardson. In every Heisman winner's campaign, along the way, there are some signature moments. Tim Tebow carrying some Kentucky defenders, would-be tacklers, into the end zone. Mark Ingram running over Mississippi in 2009, and then against Ole Miss, Cam Newton lining up at wide receiver and making a touchdown catch. And then last week, Trent Richardson rocking Ole Miss's world right there in a move known famously now as the juke. And he added another one just a few moments ago.
I like the poster. Although Andrew Luck looks like he's cutting up my Washington Huskies out in Palo Alto. So this race may come all the way down to the end. And I'd like to throw Taj Boyd into the mix.
Yes.
Clemson, a guy we saw cut up Virginia Tech a few weeks ago. Had a nice game today against North Carolina.
This one goes to the end zone, and Young takes a knee. And let's take one more look at that great run.
I mean, last week that juke was awesome, but this run to me, there is nothing here, and there he just stops. And look how wide his base is. We showed that a bunch last week, and now he can go any which way, and he sees the best way to go is straight ahead. That was actually where the play was designed to go. They pulled around the right guard for Alabama, Alfred McCullough. There really wasn't much there, but he got his base wide. He does that as well as anybody I've ever seen. When he gets into the hole, his base widens out. He's got a lot of power, a lot of balance. There was nowhere to go except straight ahead where the hole was for the touchdown.
Here's Young on the little end around, and Young with a nice gain of about 6 yards, brought down by Hightower. Let's go back to Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thank you. Alabama may not think they need Andrew Luck, but Stanford glad to have him. The Heisman hopeful here, complete to Drew Terrell. 11 of 13, 2 touchdowns, 109 yards for Luck. Stanford puts up 38 in the first half. It's 38-14. Oklahoma scheduled to kick off on ABC at 8 o'clock. delayed by lightning. We'll let you know when the Sooners get on the way. They're on the field as we speak.
All right, Luck with pretty good first half, 11 of 13, as Poole comes up about a yard shy of the first down. It'll be 3rd down and 1 to go for the Vols. And Derek Dooley in his second year on the sidelines, we chronicled earlier the fact that 16 of his players are freshmen or sophomores. Got a lot of significant playing time last year, and he said, you know, going into that Florida game earlier this year, we hadn't had a lot of scars, and we got some scars from that, which are helping us ultimately grow. Ed, they're getting some more scars as expected in this game.
Second game on the road, first one in the swamp, now here. You grow up pretty quick in places like this.
Sims hands it off. Poole is short, and it'll be 4th down and about a yard or less to go.
And I think you punt this one away.
A little too deep?
Yeah, you're too deep. I just don't think you want to keep touching the stove against this Alabama defense. I like the first time where they went for it. I thought it was a good aggressive call. But I think this is the right point to bring in Pilardi, who has taken over snapping for Matt Darr in the ballgame.
Pilardi threw that pass on the fake punt earlier. Punch this one away. Gets off a high spiral. And Mays makes the catch back at the 27-yard line. Well, Monday night, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, and a stifling Ravens D looks to put up the clamps on Maurice Jones-Drew and Blaine Gabbert, quarterback, as the Rams head to Jacksonville. Ravens, Jags, ESPN Monday Night Football, 8:30 Eastern, also available on Watch ESPN. Coverage starts at 7 Eastern with Monday Night Countdown served by Applebee's. You always love watching the intensity and the motor of Ray Lewis.
I played in the NFL for 5 years, and that was enough for me. My body had kind of given out. I can't believe how the level he's played at for as long as he's played in a position where you get pounded by 330-pounders all night long.
Richardson back in the backfield. He's run the ball 12 times for 65 yards. Looking for his 7th consecutive 100-plus yard rushing game. Picks up about 4 on that play. Alabama in the 3rd quarter, 21 points on 13 plays. Pardon me, 12 plays.
And Alabama came out throwing the ball all over the lot. Looked like Steve Spurrier was their head coach, not Nick Saban. I was shocked at that, but Jim McElwain, the offense coordinator, must just have a lot of confidence in McCarron and felt like he was going to get it back on track after a shaky first half.
Did he ever?
False start. Offense, number 17. 5-yard penalty. It remains 2nd down.
That's against Smelly, the tight end, former quarterback. Well, last week against Ole Miss, Alabama outscored the Rebels 28-0 in the 3rd quarter alone. And tonight, 21-0. So 3rd period, a defining one in the last couple of games.
And been the Achilles heel for Tennessee. Because of the youth, they have really struggled in the second half in the 2 years that Derek Dooley has been here. And I think it goes back to what you were talking about, just they're getting those scars. He called it competitive maturity. They just don't have a very mature team. And you look at the maturity, the talent level throughout the entire program, the difference between Tennessee and Alabama. And I think Dooley will get there. I think he was a good hire and the right hire, but the teacher right now teaching a couple of lessons to his former pupil.
There was. Saban's team was under a lot of pressure, but you know what? Pressure makes diamonds and pressure busts pipes. Alabama was 14 carat in that 3rd quarter. Back with more after this. Folks, the city of Tuscaloosa takes its name from Choctaw Native American chief Tuscaloosa, which means black warrior. Now, according to historical accounts, the chief was a very wise and respected leader and was of impressive physical stature. Get this, standing almost 7 feet tall.
As I was driving into town from Birmingham, where you fly into to get to Tuscaloosa, I was talking to a friend of mine in Seattle, and he asked that question. He said, where in the world did the name Tuscaloosa come from? I assumed it had a Native American background, but Once again, now we know the rest of the story.
Tushka Lisa. The old Native American chief would have been proud of his team tonight. Smelly with a first down and a big pickup. Let's go back to Wendy in the studio.
Mark, thank you. After nearly a 2-hour delay caused by lightning, we are underway on ABC in Norman, Oklahoma, Texas Tech. And Texas Tech, less than a minute in, Seth Dagey to Alex Torres. The Red Raiders on the board. It's 7-0 in the first quarter.
First and 10 here. 17-yard gain by Smelly. Aaron has that pass knocked away. Nicely defended by Justin Coleman. What do you think about Texas Tech's chances in that Big 12 contest?
Tommy Tuberville has a, it took him a while to start to get his program going when Mike Leach left. Thing was kind of in disarray, not unlike when Derek Dooley took over Tennessee and Lane Kiffin left. But I think the folks here in Alabama, when you bring up the name Tommy Tuberville, a lot of respect for what he did at Auburn and before that at Ole Miss. So I think Oklahoma is one of the top 2 or 3. I think they're right in there with Alabama and LSU as a kind of co-number 1. So it's early. Give them a chance.
There's Lacey. Gains about 2 on the play. Of course, they're going to be the obvious comparisons made because of the BCS standings between Alabama's margin of victory against Tennessee, if they should hang on to win potentially, and LSU last week defeating Tennessee.
I think you throw all of that out. I think you throw out today's game against Auburn for LSU. That was a whitewash, couple of turnovers in the kicking game. LSU had great field position the entire game because of that. And I think you throw this out too. I think you've got such an evenly matched game 2 weeks from now.
You going to leave it up to the computer? Big showdown coming up November 5th. Pass complete and a great grab by Darius Hanks. And a third down conversion by the Tide. A 20-yard pickup. And after this game, they'll have a week off before the big showdown between Alabama and LSU.
And kind of a quirk in the schedule with both teams having a week off, and of course a lot of people talking about the 3 players suspended.
Does it favor either of the teams?
I think when the game's over, I think if you look at which team is more banged up, both of them are fairly healthy right now, but maybe with Eddie Lacy getting another week to get that turf toe because he's such a good AD with Trent Richardson, maybe helps Alabama.
Karen going up top. Incomplete. Intended for DeAndrew White, the talented freshman. There's a look at the players that were suspended for a game.
Where
Tigers.
Yeah, Ware, Matthew, and Simon. Simon and Matthew both, of course, in the secondary. And there was a lot of talk this week about they were suspended for failing a drug test. Well, LSU's policy, if you read it very closely, says that they need to miss 15% of the season, which a lot of people think are 2 games. But a unidentified athletic department source yesterday saying that is a subjective rule based on each individual failing of a drug test. So I suspect that those 3 young men will play against Alabama. That's just a hunch on my part, but I think push comes to shove, Les Miles will let those guys play.
Eddie Lacy on a nice run by Alabama. And of course, Nick Saban won a national championship on the sidelines in Baton Rouge. He's also won one just a couple of years ago, 2009. Here at Alabama, there's Bobby Williams, his tight ends and special teams coach right there in the headset and the glasses. He's a coach on staff with Saban back at Michigan State. 3rd down and 4 coming up for Alabama. Lacy again. And Lacy got about a yard. Let's check in with Wendy again in the studio.
Mark, thank you. Back to Norman on ABC. It took 2 hours for this one to get started, and we've had 2 touchdowns in about 2 minutes. The Sooners found an answer. Landry Jones to Kenny Stills, all tied up. 12:52 in the first quarter. And on ESPN, Wisconsin, Michigan State just underway in the second half. Sparty with the 23-14 lead.
Cade Foster coming in to attempt this field goal for Alabama now.
He was questionable. He suffered a concussion last week against Ole Miss, but he passed all the tests and was able to suit up and play tonight.
is from 45 yards out. And he drills it through with a lot of room to spare. Alabama with 24 unanswered points since halftime. And folks, let's take a look at our FaceTime profile brought to you by Edward Jones. Nick Saban, a native of West Virginia, the 2003 National Coach of the Year, 4 conference championships. And Ed, when we sat down and met with him yesterday over at the football offices, I think what we took away from that was the fact that Nick Saban has really evolved over the last 4 years since being here in Tuscaloosa.
And talking to the players yesterday, Nico Johnson and specifically the linebacker, they're talking about how they've gone, the coaches under Nick Saban have gone to less cursing at players. They've really made a push to treat their players more respectfully. And Nico was even joking. He said, I don't think Coach has thrown down his hat, which he does. That's when he's mad. You know, Coach Saban is mad when he's thrown the hat. But he said he's been a lot calmer in practice, treat us differently. And, you know, I think a lot of people see him as very old school. But when you talk to him about all of the things that they do for their players on and off the field, and the things that he does as an individual and as a man to try to improve himself, I don't think that label fits. You know, I think we all kind of see the exterior, and he seems like, you know, he's never happy. I just don't think that that fits when you get to know him and his program. I'm not sure I'm pushing him all the way to new school, but he sure is a forward thinker when it comes to developing young men.
Yeah, really big on the aspect of leadership, has brought in a lot of famous people. Bob Delaney, former NBA referee who was an FBI undercover agent at one point, and explaining, talking about life experiences and working as a team for the Alabama players. Lane on the return from the 7. Takes it out to about the 28-yard line. A 21-yard kickoff return. It'll be 1st down and 10 for the Volunteers as Derek Dooley looks for his signature win, his first signature win on the sidelines at Tennessee. Sims coming back into the ball game. You know, Dooley does his own great job at Tennessee with his Balls for Life program.
They've been
taking
working
a big picture look.
Yeah, they've been working on leadership because they have such a young team, trying to get some of the younger players to realize you don't have to be a junior or senior to become a leader on the team.
Sims intercepted by Hightower. Hightower, he wants 6. Dante Hightower. 1st and goal Tide. It was tipped by Nico Johnson, and Hightower did the rest.
Nico Johnson has turned into a heck of a player for Nick Saban and Kirby Smart as defensive coordinator. Great coverage, just sitting down, reading the eyes of the quarterback, and Sims locked in a little bit on Rivera. But Johnson, a guy who came off the field some for C.J. Mosley earlier in the season in passing downs, but Mosley suffered an elbow injury. And Johnson has showed the coaches maybe he's a little better in the pass game than they thought. And there he is with Kirby Smart, and they gave him Defensive Player of the Game last week against Ole Miss. And Hightower needs to go over and give a high five to his buddy Johnson for making that happen.
There's Richardson still on his feet. You know, I'm not sure that I've seen a back gain as many yards after initial contact as him this year. And let's go back to that great play by Nico Johnson. There's on the sidelines. When we met with him yesterday, when they were talking about their attachment to the community and their affinity for the people that have supported them over the years, tears almost welling up. They're very emotionally attached to the people that come and watch these games.
And I think going through that softened Nick Saban with his players. They went through it together, helping the community, and you could see the bond that's grown amongst this team.
Richardson, great sidestep, still moving the pile down to the 1-yard line. It'll be 3rd and goal from there.
He is spectacular in a crowd. The way he moves his feet, the jump starts, his wide base. And Justin Wilcox, the defensive coordinator for Tennessee, was saying if you don't get your whole body on him when you tackle him, you're never going to be able to take him down.
3rd and goal. Single back set. Richardson, the man back there. He gets the call and the touchdown. Set up by the interception. And the route is on in earnest. 17th touchdown of his career. This season, actually, for Trent Richardson. The distinctive tinted dreads hanging out the back of his helmet, telling the story. But it's games like this that really speak of the love affair between the players and their community. And we pay homage to that relationship when we come back on the other side. Alabama in control, rolling. Well, back on April 27th of this past year, a tornado really eviscerated, gutted parts of Tuscaloosa. And it was a real somber scene here that still remains in town, right near campus off of University and about 26th. And we go downstairs to Janine for more.
And Mark, you guys have touched on the relationship between Tuscaloosa and this team. And as I drove around and got a firsthand look at the impact on people's lives, you know, I see debris everywhere, buildings in various states of ruin and repair. Nick Saban called it the worst of times, but also the best of times. There's evidence of a community rising up together. And as Barrett Jones told us, you know, it'll be because the community has always supported us if we win a national championship. Now we're supporting them. We now have a lot more to play for.
There's a very genuine and sincere relationship between the community and the football players, football staff, the coaches, and it wasn't even about building and rebuilding, Ed. It was more about just being there at times and sharing stories and listening to the stories of the people who had their lives turned upside down by the events of April 27th here in Tuscaloosa. Marlin on the kickoff return. There's a flag down on the play as Marlin goes down at about the 32. Marlin Lane on the kickoff return.
Offside, kicking team, number 11. The penalty is 5 yards. Will be enforced from end of return. First down.
Let's go back to the studio and Wendy Nix.
Mark, thank you. It's a primetime pulse on ABC. Stanford and Washington just underway in the second half, 38-14 on ESPN. Wisconsin has just kicked a field goal, but it's still 23-17 Sparty. And after a 2-hour lightning delay, we are all tied up in Norman also on ABC. 7-all, 9.5 to play in the first quarter.
All right, Wendy, Justin Worley now in at quarterback for the Volunteers, and he hands it off on the first play. And a fumble. Alabama recovers the ball. Somebody lost a shoe. Tennessee lost the ball, and Alabama comes up with the loose pill. Vinny Sunseri, the strong safety, makes the recovery.
Vinny, a young man who has been a terror on special teams, and Lane, the freshman, not much of a hit, just gets caught in traffic. Looked like he maybe ran into his own man, but Sunseri, a true freshman whose dad, Sal, is the linebacker coach. But this is a young man because of what he did on special teams, and that's his father right there, Sal. But because of what Vinny did on special teams, he's earned the right to start getting some run from regular scrimmage plays.
Why's Dad got to be so cool about it? Why can't he go over and give his son a little dap?
Because Nick Saban's his boss.
For the uninitiated, a dap means a pounding fist, as we
as we see it sometimes in the sports world. Bumping fists, dab.
And Philip Sims getting into the ball game. Young man who went right down to the wire in a battle against A.J. McCarron. McCarron, the sophomore, getting the nod to start the season over Philip Sims, a redshirt freshman. A lot because that McCarron just had one more year in the system. But when you talk to Jim McElwain about Sims from Chesapeake, Virginia, big arm, very talented. They say really it came down to experience for them. It's a guy that they're able to get some time in, and it's going to be an ongoing battle, I think, in the years to come.
2nd and 6. This is the 3rd string tailback, Jolson Fowler. And you know, when you talk about Philip Sims out of Virginia Beach, tell you more about that on the other side. You know, the chase heads to NASCAR's biggest wild card, Talladega, where points leader Carl Edwards will try to hold back a surging Kyle Busch, folks. Jimmy Johnson will look to bounce back from last week's setback that he encountered, and the chase continues at Talladega Sunday at 1 Eastern on ESPN. Ed, a lot of good quarterbacks coming out of that Virginia area. They got some good players out of that Tidewater, you know, Virginia Beach.
Well, the growth of the Virginia Tech program under Frank Beamer, a lot of it was because they were able to go into that area, which has a huge population base, plays a lot of football.
That pass dropped. Chris Underwood not doing justice to the pass by Sims that time.
And if you look at this roster for Alabama, it's almost all Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana. We were talking to Jim McElwain about going to Virginia to pick up Philip Sims, and he said it's a little different with a quarterback. When you find a guy with this much talent, you don't mind going outside of your regular recruiting area to get him.
You talked about the fact that it's going to be a battle in incoming years. How do you, as you look at the classes, how do you stagger things, and how do you arbitrarily redshirt guys at that position? We'll talk about that a little bit after this play here. McCarron now watching from the sidelines. 4th and 6 coming up. Sims airs it out and shows you a little bit of his talent throwing the ball complete to Bell. How do you stagger things in redshirt?
Well, you love, if you have 2 quarterbacks, to be able to separate them, that 2 quarterbacks that you like, to separate them as much as possible. But McCarron and Sims both have already been redshirted, so they're already a freshman and sophomore. Of course, you're always going to try to bring in at least 1 quarterback per recruiting class because you never know who's going to hit or miss. So right now with McCarron and Sims, it's a little difficult, but we'll talk a little more about Justin Worley and Tennessee with Tyler Bray, because Worley just came out and played his first snap, and he's a true freshman before that fumble.
Sims hands it off this time, and this is Fowler on the run. You know, I think about Fowler in the big 100-yard rushing game he had last week against Ole Miss. It reminds me of a story that Barry Switzer, the old Oklahoma coach, told when he sent one of his coaches to scout Oklahoma State when Thurman Thomas was playing. He said, you know what? That Thurman Thomas is good, but we better hope that he stays healthy, because the guy behind him, this guy Barry Sanders, he's even better.
It's unbelievable when you think about Barry Sanders.
Yeah. Depth at tailback.
Not taking anything away from Trent Richardson, because I think he's clearly the #1 guy here. But think about Sanders, kind of a 1-season career. Yeah. That Heisman was the year after Thurman Thomas had left.
There's the 3rd string tailback who went for over 100 last week, Justin Fowler. As we go back to our starter in the studio, Wendy Nix.
Mark, thank you so much. The turnovers, once again, a problem for the Irish, as they were in those first 2 games of the season. Notre Dame on the 1-yard line, the fumble, and the recovery into the end zone. And USC in South Bend leading this game 24-10 at the end of the 3rd quarter.
Wow. That is a huge swing. 3rd and 6 here. Fowler makes a nice move. Stays on his feet. It'll be 1st and goal, and he's wishing that he'd have been able to stay on his feet a little bit longer. Would have had 6.
And now Fowler in there because Eddie Lacy still looked like he was running a little flat-footed. Of course, a lot of times when you have a turf toe, they'll put a metal plate in your shoe, so it's a little hard to really push off.
That injury is a little bit of a misnomer, isn't it? It sounds like an insignificant, inconsequential thing, but
it's awful. There's so much pain in that your big toe, the big knuckle on the big toe right at the end of your foot. It's that bottom pad part that gets crushed in a way that's pretty unique. It's an injury that rarely happens in any other sport other than football. And a lot of times it's because while you're pushing off on your foot, all of the pressure that's on there, when you get hit by someone and you push down even further, it causes so much inflammation and swelling in that knuckle underneath of your foot. And that's really where you put the most pressure when you're a running back.
There's Lacey. Coming off that turf toe injury. Put up some decent numbers tonight. 2nd and goal coming out. Charleston Fowler, the tailback in the game right now. Takes the handoff, trying to hit the edge. Now squares those shoulders and gets down to about the 5-yard line. It'll be 3rd and goal coming up for the Crimson Tide, looking to improve to 8-0 on the season overall. And 5-0 in conference play. They'll have next week off, and then the big showdown November 5th against LSU.
Of course, that game here in Tuscaloosa, not in Death Valley. Thought it was loud here tonight early when Tennessee was giving them a fight. Imagine what it's going to be like when the Bayou.
Who do you like in the game?
I think it's a flip a coin. I really do. I was very impressed with LSU without 3 of their key players today.
And here's Fowler again, down to the 2. It's 4th and goal coming up.
And the reason after last week's game and after studying Nick Saban's team on tape, I thought Alabama was clearly the best team. However, this first half gave me pause. A.J. McCarron did not look like himself. Defensively, they gave up more rushing yards than you'd expect. So, yes, in the second half, they've come out and played much, much better. Give credit to the players for getting focused and the coaches for making the necessary adjustments. But after that first half, I'm not so sure anymore.
4th and goal. And off to Fowler. Did he get in? Stopped short on 4th down, and the Vols will take over. And you hear a chorus of boos showering down on the officials. Talked about the expectations here.
Well, it looked like Fowler, to me, was awfully close. I think he may have fallen victim to what happened to Sims earlier on that quarterback sneak.
Not getting that ball.
Yeah, the ball was too low against his body because his shoulders looked like they broke the play. Needed to get that ball out there so it would break it.
ESPN's College Football Primetime is presented by Triple Hops Brewed Miller Lite. Taste greatness. And in part by Lexus. It's time to engineer amazing.
Under the lights at Bryant-Denny Stadium, Justin Worley now in at quarterback for Tennessee. We talked about the redshirting issue and how delicate it can be.
And they were hoping to redshirt Worley, a true freshman out of South Carolina, but with Tyler Bray hurt and Matt Sims struggling 2 weeks in a row. And give credit to Matt, though, against 2 of the best defenses in the country. I've got to think if Worley's in the game at this part of the game where it's over, and welcome to the SEC, Justin. But if Derek Dooley's making the choice to take the red shirt, quote unquote, off of Justin Worley, I've got to think that going into next week's game against South Carolina, we may see Worley get a start. Again, Matt came in against Georgia, almost helped them win the game, but he's had 2 rough outings against 2 of the best defenses in the country. But Worley's a guy that they worked very hard to recruit. Threw for over 13,000 yards in his high school career. Was the Gatorade National Player of the Year. And just like they did last year with Tyler Bray, I wouldn't be surprised if they start him next week against South Carolina.
This is Marlon Lane, who fumbled last time. Stopped up after a gain of about 1. It'll be 3rd and long, of course, next week. You mentioned it. Tennessee taking on South Carolina, the Gamecocks, without the services of their star running back, Marcus Lattimore, who's out for the season, the result of a knee injury. And Derek Dooley's team, after this one, will fall to 3-4 after facing the 2 top teams in the nation.
But we talked to Coach Dooley earlier in the week and said, would you play Worley? And he said, well, I did it last year. Tyler Bray was a true freshman. We were struggling at that position, and Gray's turned into a pretty good quarterback, so would not be surprised at all if we saw number 14 as a starter next week.
Lane with a nice move. It's about 3. And it'll be 1:30 to go. 4th down coming up.
What a great breather for Alabama to get a bye week before LSU. Of course, we mentioned just a little bit of a quirk that both Tigers and
That's
Crimson
a huge
Tide,
quirk.
yeah, that they both get a bye before they play.
You know, the conspiracy theorists will come out now.
Yeah.
With LSU and Alabama having a week off before the big showdown November 5th. 4th and 6 coming up for Tennessee here. He hands it off. And Marlin going to be stopped up short of the 1st down, and Alabama will take over on downs, and that just might do it. This one pretty much cooked, glazed, and sliced. Nick Saban's team about to improve to 8-0 overall in the season and 5-0 in conference play. He's got some Bayou Bengals on his mind up next. Hey folks, join Reese Davis, Kirk Herbstreit, and Craig James for BCS Countdown Sunday night as they unveil the latest BCS polls and analyze who are the contenders and who aren't. BCS Countdown presented by Vizio on ESPN Sunday night, 8:15 Eastern, continues on ESPNU at 9. 1st and goal for the Tide. And come out in their victory formation, because that's about where it is right now, victory. Sims takes the knee.
One of the interesting things watching LSU throughout the season, getting ready for this ball game here in 2 weeks, and you even mentioned it on the ride over, is the growth of Jarrett Lee at quarterback. Jordan Jefferson, of course, suspended for the first 4 games of the season, but I think everyone, when Jarrett Lee was a freshman, he had a problem with interceptions and a bunch returned for touchdowns. And if you kind of missed the last couple of years, what he has done, Steve Crackthorpe came in as a new offensive coordinator, and that team offensively, not flashy, but boy, are they efficient.
Derek Dooley used to work on Saban's staff at LSU and with the Miami Dolphins, share an exchange at midfield. As we take a look at this week's BCS standings brought to you by Vizio.
Well, everybody talks about a playoff in college football. On November 5th, the playoffs begin.
Yes,
LSU and Alabama, and then, of course, Oklahoma State aiming for Bedlam at the end of the year. We've got a top 4. Maybe we're already in the Final 4.
Oh, that's all from here. College football prime time. Alabama wins it. Brett Cunningham and Janine Edwards and our entire crew, I'm Mark Jones, saying good night from Tuscaloosa as we send you back to the studio. So long, everyone.